Plane 12 video. We're back again here in Papa Alpha, our PA-18. Now, between the last video and this one, I have done a little bit of homework. So in the XP Korea, let's take a look at the company manager here. In the flight logs, we can see that I took a flight from here at Oaksey Park over to northern France with some cargo on board. I did that in a 172 just so that I had some autopilot. That was a fairly long flight, 400-ish miles, and so I wanted some autopilot help. We got a fairly decent payout for that, but most importantly, what it did is if we check out the main window here in XP Korea, we can see that we have 4.6 hours on our flight log. We need 5 hours to be able to do our high performance piston aircraft check ride, so that's what we are going to get up to today. So today we have a flight across to Echo Golf Whiskey Uniform, which is RAF Northolt. So we're going to be heading across to there. I'm going to take a passenger. We have this one here with $70 US, and we also, I believe, I'm going to try and take this £306 worth of cargo. What we can actually do is in the settings we can change the currency and the units. I'm going to go ahead and do that to something a little bit more familiar for myself here. So we will end up paying £55 for the passenger. We'll probably lose money on the passenger, to be honest. And then let's take 139 kilos of cargo, and that's going to give us just under £1,000 here for this flight. Good. Okay, so let's accept those jobs. So I'm going to do the passenger, and also I'm going to do the cargo. Now, one thing we do need to watch out for is our maximum payload. So our remaining payload right now is only 1 kilogram. So we are right at the edge of our weight limit, but we've got 38 kilos of fuel on board, which is about 1.7 hours or approximately 200 miles worth of range. We're only going 60, so that should be absolutely fine. We've got enough fuel to fly all the way there and back and have plenty to spare. So with those on, we are going to select Fly Now. We can see that we're going to get some decent pay for that cargo. The passenger's going to lose a bit of money, but that really doesn't matter. Overall, we're going to make £800, and most importantly, we shall get our flight time up. So let's get these loaded into our aircraft, and while they're doing that, we can prepare for our startup. So we have avionics and master on. I'm going to turn the avionics off, but we do want the beacon. Parking brake is set. Magnetos can come to both. Carb heat and cabin heat are off. Fuel tank set to both. Let's get our mixture to full. Crack the throttle open a little bit. Everything's ready. We can start our engine. So let's prime and go for a start. Great, everything's looking good. Let's get our avionics turned on and our taxi light on. We're going to make our way down to the start of runway 22. We can check out the weather here at Oaksey just to make sure nothing's changed. So we are departing off runway 22, which is looking good. Supposedly we've got a scattered layer around 3,200, so we're going to keep things around 3,000 for this flight. It says rain, but we're not getting any of that at the moment. I think it's mostly showers. QNH of 1006 will make sure that that is set correctly, which it is. Fantastic. So let's get ourselves taxied down to runway 22 and get ready for takeoff. So while we wait for our engine oil to warm up here, what I am going to do for this flight is we are going to use the in-game ATC. Technically we'll be filing an IFR flight plan. I don't believe this aircraft is technically IFR capable, and definitely my knowledge of the procedures is not IFR capable, but it's not really simulated very well in this anyway, so that doesn't really matter. We can get away without that knowledge or that equipment. But as a first look, we're just going to give it a go. So we are needing to file a flight plan first. We're going from Echo Golf Tango Whiskey, and we're going to be flying across to Echo Golf Whiskey Uniform here, which is RAF Northolt. So let's pop that in. So with that input, we have our destination and our en route altitude. We're going to go ahead and file this plan without any extra route. We'll just let ATC decide whichever route it's going to give us for this flight. So we'll file this flight plan. Alright, and with our flight plan set, then what we are going to do is over here in our transmission log, we are going to tune London Control, which I've done already, and I'm going to request my clearance here on the ground.
Control, November 118 Pop Alpha, alone, Piper PA-18 Super Cub, on the ground at OT Park, request IFR clearance to RAF Northolt.
Okay, there we go, let's read that back. So we are cleared routing direct at 3000. We need to squawk 4106. They're very hard to hear, but we're on the ground, so that's not surprising. Our clearance is void by 1137, but that's no stress. We are going to be taking off immediately. So let's go for it. Everything is set up. I'm going to leave this window just down here to the side. Let's get ourselves ready for takeoff. So we'll get rid of our taxi light, we'll chuck on landing and nav lights. Let's give ourselves a notch of flap, release our parking brake, we'll line up, and then we'll go for our takeoff. Alright, very good. Everything's looking good. Temperatures, pressures, all happy. Let's roll the engine back slightly. Dump the flaps away. So we are climbing to 3000. We need to turn on a right turn of 090. Or 095 technically. Should be a direct route across to Northolt. And there we are, just picking up our heading. So I'm going to head into our cruise climb. I'm going to get everything trimmed out. I'm going to climb up to 3000. It hopefully should be a nice, easy flight. We are going to check in with the controller now that we are up off the ground.
London Control, November 118 Pop Alpha, Park OT Park, cleared IFR to RAF Northolt, altitude 1,500, climbing 3,000.
Papa Alpha, continue present ahead, climb and maintain 3000.
There we go. So they have confirmed that we are doing everything right, so we're just going to continue.
Papa Alpha, turn left, heading 070.
Right, and they've given us a heading to turn on to now, so we're going to read that back and we'll turn to 070. So I was just checking out some of the weather here at RF Northolt, and ATC chimed in and told us to expect runway 25. So let's read that back. That's literally what I was just reading here. So we're going to expect runway 25. What we can do, in fact, is, I believe runway 25 is listed as having an ILS. Now, we do have receiving equipment on board, so what we'll do is grab the frequency here for the ILS runway 25, which is 108.5. Probably won't use it, but if we've got it and we're landing on that runway, we may as well tune it. So down here, I'm going to set 108.5, and we'll make that active.
8 Papa Alpha, contact London Heathrow approach 119.1030. Goodbye.
There we go, so we are now being handed across to London Heathrow approach, so 119.730. So let's get that tuned and across, and then we can check in with the London approach controller.
November 118 Harper Alpha, London Heathrow approach. Hello, QNH 1006. Radar contact.
Okay, so we are 1006, which we are, and they have us on radar. Fantastic.
500, 8 Charlie Whiskey. 8 Harper Alpha, turn left heading 085. Descend and maintain 2,500.
There we go, so starting our descent down with a left turn to 085. Let's read that back and begin a descent.
4 Zulu Yankee.
We've been joined on the frequency by some other aircraft, so there will be some background transmissions. Right, so as we get ourselves ready here, we can now see that our ILS is being received and is being displayed. So we're currently high on the glide slope and off to the right hand side of the track. So we keep following this in for now. Obviously we are on a visual approach, so I'm sure at some point we'll be asked to confirm visual contact with the field, which I don't have yet. The visibility isn't brilliant. We do have this super pilot vision, which we can zoom in with, so here we go.
Turn right heading 240. Report the field in sight.
So right turn, and we need to report the field when we get it.
Heading 265. Cleared visual approach. Runway 25.
Okay, so we are now cleared for the visual approach, and we're going to turn right on a heading of 265. And what I thought was the airfield absolutely was not the airfield. That would have been quite a serious mistake. I see it out there off our nose. Let's read this back. Okay, fantastic. We have our landing clearance. I'm going to begin a descent here. I can see 4 white lights out there, and we are way high on the ILS. We've got loads of time to resolve that, though. We're in, obviously, a fairly slow and manoeuvrable aircraft. So while we do that, let's check everything out. We still have a landing light on, and everything looks good. I'm going to put in a little bit of carb heat just to keep things nice and warm in the engine bay.
428 Charlie Whiskey. Shutdown. November 428 Charlie Whiskey. Shutdown approved.
And then when we get a little bit closer to being on the glide slope here, we'll probably slow ourselves down and introduce some flaps. Here we go, we're looking pretty good, so let's slow ourselves down, keep our nose up, and then we'll pop in some flaps and release some back pressure. There we go. We'll try and keep the descent coming. I'm only going to use one notch of flap for this. We've got a huge runway, so it should be no stress at all. We are clear to land. We do have our landing light on. Everything is good.
RAF Northbound Tower, November 428 Charlie Whiskey, alone, band RB10, request IFR clearance to Pembroke.
November 428 Charlie Whiskey, cleared IFR to Pembroke. Routing as filed. Maintain 4000. Squawk 4113. QNH 1006.
Cleared IFR to Pembroke route as filed. Maintain 4000. Squawk 4113.
I'm going to try and use some rudder to straighten things out.
November 428
I'll reduce our power flare slightly.
November
We're floating.
428 Charlie Whiskey. Read back correct.
And there we go. Bit of a rough landing. I don't think the game's going to like that one very much at all.
RAF Northbound Tower, November 428 Charlie Whiskey.
Let's keep it on the center line here.
3114 departure. Have information. Whiskey.
8 Charlie Whiskey. Runway 25. Taxi via Foxtrot. Golf. Charlie. Bravo. Bravo 2. Bravo 1. Alpha 2. Alpha. And 2-5 Tango. Hold short of runway 25.
So we are actually going
Runway
to
25, taxi via Foxtrot.
just follow our blue line here. I'm not going to wait for
Bravo 1,
taxi
Alpha,
instructions
Alpha,
unless they
25,
give us
Tango.
the exact
Hold
same.
short, runway 25,
So
Charlie
let's
Whiskey.
just wait for this long clearance. We can see if I can request a taxi here. Let's have a look and see where this wants us to park. Stand row 4. Let's see if I'm able to request that or not. No, only bay 1. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it then. And we shall just taxi ourselves across without any clearance. Right, we're off the runway, so let's get flaps up, we'll get landing light off, taxi light on. And here we are over at RAF Northolt. So the blue lines on the ground are the ones provided by XP Korea. And then the darker ones, they're actually provided by X-Plane. So it does actually seem that they had a similar taxi route here, but the XP Korea one wants me to park over in that blue box. So we're going to break off the X-Plane one and follow this. We might get told off by ATC, they might give us a warning up in the top right. But the two don't exactly line up, so this is what we kind of have to deal with. Tuck in where this, I think that's a Beechcraft, is. So what I'm actually going to do is request new parking, because I don't think we can actually get in there without crashing. So let's request new parking. There we go, we've got a bit more of a sensible parking area, so let's take ourselves across to there now. And there we are, parking brake is set. And then according to the sim, our touchdown was actually good. I'm not so sure I'd agree once again, but there we are. So we are here, we are ready to shut down. So let's have our taxi light, nav light, avionics off, leave our beacon on, our parking brake is set. We'll get rid of the carb heat now, we don't need that. Turn off the transponder and cut our engine. Then we can unload our cargo and our passenger, and that will be the mission complete. So I've said this in the description of the last 2 videos, but I just want to chuck it in a video here. I'm not a pilot, and I have no plans on becoming a pilot in anywhere near the near future. So I treat X-Plane as a game, which is why I say game a few times throughout, and it just is what it is. Maybe one day I shall learn proper procedures, but I treat this as a fun game. But there we go, that is that mission complete. We earned £800 in profit, we gained a bit of reputation, and a reputation there. So we now have 5.7 hours of flight time. That means we are able to do our check ride. So join me next time where we shall do that, and as long as all goes well, we should then be into some high-performance pistons. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.